Warning, you are about to enter a 3D audio nightmare. This is a cinematic story for your ears, not your eyes. Visuals are for atmosphere only. For your own safety, put on your headphones. You have been warned.
The first droplet hit Dr. Sarah Chen's GPS unit like a tiny bomb. She watched it spread across the screen, distorting the blinking red dot that marked their location deep in the Amazonian rainforest. Her fingers tightened around the device as thunder growled overhead. "That's not supposed to happen," she muttered, glancing up at the canopy where darkness gathered between the leaves. "The forecast said clear skies for the next week." Marcus Rivera paused ahead of her on the narrow trail, his machete lowering to his side. Even after 6 hours of cutting through undergrowth, his movements remained precise, controlled. He tilted his head, listening to something Sarah couldn't hear. "The forest is too quiet," he said, switching to his native Portuguese before catching himself. "No birds, no monkeys, nothing." Behind Sarah, Jim Cooper's expensive boots squelched in the mud. "We're not turning back," he announced, wiping sweat from his forehead with a monogrammed handkerchief. "Not when we're this close to the coordinates." Sarah turned to face him, noting how the others had stopped to watch the confrontation. Elena was pretending to check her specimen containers while clearly eavesdropping. Mike adjusted his camera settings unnecessarily, and Anna's hand drifted to the satellite phone at her belt. "Jim," Sarah kept her voice level, professional, "the indigenous warnings about this region are superstitions, like the ones in Burma and Nepal and every other place where people don't want outsiders finding what they're hiding." The mention of Burma made Sarah's stomach clench. She could still smell the blood sometimes, still hear Lee's screams before the cave collapsed. She forced the memory down, focusing on the present danger. Another thunderclap, closer now. The temperature dropped several degrees in seconds, and Sarah's skin prickled with goosebumps. The darkness between the trees seemed to thicken, like ink spreading through water. "We should make camp," Anna suggested, her medical training evident in her calm tone. "Before the storm hits, we can reassess in the morning." Mike lowered his camera, frowning at the viewfinder. "These readings don't make sense. The light's dropping too fast for this time of day." Elena stepped closer to Sarah, lowering her voice. "The specimens are acting strange, too. The tree frogs in my collection, they're all trying to burrow into the substrate. I've never seen behavior like this." Sarah felt it then, a vibration through the soles of her boots. Not like an earthquake, more like a massive weight shifting somewhere deep below. The mud at her feet rippled in concentric circles. "Marcus," she called out, trying to keep the tremor from her voice. "The largest anaconda you've ever encountered." The guide turned slowly, his expression unreadable in the growing gloom. 8 meters, maybe 9. He paused, then added, "My grandfather spoke of larger ones, ancient ones, but those were just stories." The darkness was almost complete now. Sarah fumbled with her pack, pulling out her flashlight. Around her, the others did the same. 6 beams of light cut through the gloom, creating shifting shadows that seemed to move independent of their sources. That's when they heard it. A sound so low it was almost subsonic, more felt than heard. It resonated in Sarah's chest cavity, made her teeth ache, like the world's largest wind instrument being played in the depths of the earth. "What the hell was that?" Mike whispered, his camera forgotten at his side. Before anyone could answer, the rain began. Not the usual tropical downpour, but something else entirely. The drops were thick, almost black in their flashlight beams, and they hissed when they struck leaves and skin. Sarah wiped one from her cheek and stared at the dark smear it left on her fingers. "It's not water," Elena said, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. "It's too viscous, too cold." Jim finally looked uncertain, his earlier bravado cracking. "We need to find shelter, now." Marcus pointed his flashlight beam between 2 massive ceiba trees. "There's a research station 2 kilometers east, emergency shelter. We can—" The rest of his sentence was drowned out by another thunderclap, but this one was wrong. It didn't fade like natural thunder. Instead, it resolved into a sound that made Sarah's primitive hindbrain scream in recognition. The slide of scales against wood, multiplied by impossible size. "Run," she whispered, then louder, "Run!" They crashed through the undergrowth, flashlight beams bouncing wildly. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as branches whipped at her face. Behind them, something massive moved through the canopy, sending ancient trees swaying like saplings in a breeze. The last thing Sarah saw before her flashlight beam caught a root and sent her sprawling was a glimpse of something overhead, a curve of obsidian scales the size of car tires, and an eye like a burning emerald in the darkness, watching their panicked flight with ancient, patient hunger. Then her light went out, and the darkness swallowed them whole.
Sarah's flashlight flickered back to life just as Elena's scream cut through the darkness. The beam caught the younger scientist stumbling backward, her specimen container scattered across the mud. "Something touched me," Elena gasped, pawing at her shoulder. "Something cold! It brushed against my neck!" Marcus appeared at her side, machete raised. His flashlight beam swept the canopy, revealing nothing but the strange black rain dripping from leaves the size of dinner plates. But Sarah noticed how his hands trembled slightly, the first time she'd seen the veteran guide show fear. "The station," he said, voice tight. "We stay together, move in pairs. Dr. Cooper with me, Elena with Mike. Sarah, you and Anna take the rear." They moved through the forest like a wounded animal, flashlights darting at every sound. The black rain made visibility a nightmare, creating shifting curtains that played tricks with depth perception. Sarah kept thinking she saw movement in her peripheral vision, but every time she turned, there was nothing but darkness. Anna's medical training showed in how she matched Sarah's pace perfectly, conserving energy. "Your breathing's irregular," she murmured. "The Burma incident?" Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. The memory of that expedition threatened to overwhelm her. The cave system, the legends of something ancient that hunted in the dark, the way Lee's headlamp had shown something impossible just before. A crack like a gunshot made everyone freeze. Above them, a massive branch crashed through the canopy, missing Mike by inches. He stumbled back, camera swinging wildly on its strap, and collided with Elena. Their flashlight beams tangled in the darkness. "Jesus Christ!" Mike wheezed. "That nearly—" "Quiet," Marcus hissed, raising his hand for silence. They all heard it then, that deep, subsonic rumble, closer now. Sarah felt it in her molars, in her bone marrow. It wasn't coming from any one direction. It seemed to emanate from the forest itself, as if the entire jungle had become the throat of some vast organism. Jim fumbled with his satellite phone, cursing under his breath. No signal, not even emergency bandwidth. He looked at Marcus. "How much further?" "Half kilometer, maybe more." Marcus wiped black rain from his face. "But something's wrong. The trail, it's changed." Sarah knew what he meant. The undergrowth seemed different, older somehow. Vines as thick as her thigh writhed slowly in the rain, and the trees, she played her flashlight over their trunks, noting how the bark pattern seemed to shift when viewed directly, like optical illusions. "We're being herded," Sarah whispered, the realization hitting her like ice water. "Every fallen branch, every unclear path, it's pushing us somewhere specific." Elena hugged her remaining specimen container to her chest. "The frogs are dead," she said quietly. "All of them. Just stopped moving a few minutes ago." A sound like wet silk sliding over stone came from somewhere to their left. Mike's flashlight beam darted toward it, illuminating a gap between two massive trees. For a split second, Sarah saw something that her mind refused to process, a curve of scaled flesh that seemed to go on forever, moving with liquid grace despite its impossible size. "Don't run," Marcus warned, but Jim was already bolting toward what looked like clearer ground. The others shouted after him, their discipline fracturing. "Jim, stop!" Sarah called out. "That's not—" The ground beneath Jim's feet suddenly wasn't ground at all. What they'd taken for a fallen log shifted, revealing itself as another segment of the massive coil they'd glimpsed. Jim's expensive boots skidded on the scales, and he pitched forward with a cry that cut off abruptly as the darkness surged up to meet him. Sarah's flashlight caught a glimpse of something rising from the gloom, a head the size of a small car, scales gleaming like polished obsidian, but it was the eyes that made her breath stop, enormous emerald orbs that held not just hunger, but intelligence, ancient, calculating intelligence. The creature's mouth opened, revealing fangs longer than her arm. Black rain dripped from them like venom. Jim screamed then, a sound of pure animal terror that galvanized them all into action. They ran, abandoning any pretense of order or direction. Sarah felt Anna's hand grab her arm, pulling her away from where Jim's screams had become wet, choking sounds. The last thing she heard before the chaos of their flight drowned everything else out was Marcus shouting in Portuguese, not instructions or warnings, but a prayer, a very old prayer, to very old gods. Gods that, Sarah realized with growing horror, might not be the most ancient things hunting them tonight. Through the trees ahead, a light flickered, the research station, but as Sarah's flashlight cut through the rain, she saw that the building's walls were covered in something dark and glistening that pulsed in time with that deep subsonic rhythm. They were running straight toward it, just as something wanted them to.
The research station's metal door shrieked on its hinges as Marcus shoved it open. 5 flashlight beams, where there should have been 6, swept across the interior, revealing metal tables, scientific equipment, and walls lined with now empty specimen cages. "Inside, now," Marcus ordered, ushering them through. The black rain had plastered his shirt to his skin, and in the harsh light, Sarah saw was slowly eating through the fabric. They stumbled into the station, gasping and shaking. Elena immediately vomited in a corner, while Mike slumped against a wall, his camera dangling uselessly. Anna moved between them, checking vital signs with mechanical efficiency, though her hands trembled slightly. Sarah forced herself to look back through the doorway. The darkness outside had become almost solid, and that strange pulsing substance covered every visible surface. It looked like crude oil, but moved like something alive. "Close it," she said hoarsely. "The door. Close it now." Marcus slammed it shut, then wedged a metal chair under the handle. For a moment, the only sounds were their ragged breathing and Elena's quiet sobs. "Jim," Mike finally said, breaking the silence, "we have to—" "He's dead." Marcus's voice was flat. "We all saw what happened." Sarah ran her flashlight over the station's interior. The beam caught cobwebs in the corners, dust thick on the counters. This place hasn't been used in months, maybe years. "The radio," Elena said suddenly, wiping her mouth. "There has to be a radio." They found the communications set up in a small side room. Sarah's heart sank as she examined it. The equipment had been crushed, as if something massive had squeezed the entire room at some point. The metal was warped in patterns that looked disturbingly like scales. "The GPS is dead too," Anna reported, checking her devices, "and the satellite phone. Everything electronic except our flashlights." A low rumble shook the station's foundations. Outside, something massive moved through the darkness. Sarah felt her chest tighten as claustrophobia threatened to overwhelm her. The station suddenly felt like another cave, another trap. "What the hell is that thing?" Mike whispered, pressing his eye to a small window. "I've studied every predator in South America. Nothing gets that big. Nothing." Marcus touched the crucifix at his neck. "The locals call it Yakumama, Mother of the Waters. But the stories say it only hunts near rivers, not this deep in the jungle." He paused. Unless what?" Elena demanded. "Unless it's not hunting for food." Marcus turned to Sarah. "Dr. Chen, in Burma, what exactly did you find in those caves?" Sarah's throat went dry. "Carvings, ancient ones. They showed something the old cultures worshipped, a serpent that lived in the spaces between worlds. They made sacrifices to it, human sacrifices." The station creaked ominously, and a fine dust rained down from the ceiling. That strange black substance began seeping through tiny gaps in the walls, forming patterns that looked unsettlingly like written symbols. "Look at this," Anna called from where she was examining the specimen cages. Her flashlight illuminated labels dated 6 months ago. These were holding snakes, dozens of them, all the same species, but the notes say they kept getting bigger, growing way beyond normal size. A horrible suspicion formed in Sarah's mind. Jim, he funded expeditions all over the world, looking for legendary creatures. What if he found something? What if this wasn't just about discovering the snake? "You think he was breeding them? But why would he—" A sound like metal tearing interrupted her. The ceiling bulged downward as something massive pressed against it. Sarah's flashlight beam caught a glimpse of scales through a widening crack. Not black this time, but iridescent, newborn. "It's not hunting," Sarah whispered as understanding dawned. "It's nesting, and we are not its prey." She looked at the others, seeing the same horror dawn on their faces. "We're the incubators." The ceiling groaned again. Through the gaps, they could see more shapes moving in the darkness, smaller than the first creature, but growing, always growing. Marcus readied his machete. "The door, we have to—" The power suddenly came on, fluorescent lights flickering to life with a harsh buzz. But instead of relieving the darkness, the light only revealed their true situation. Every window was covered with coils of scaled flesh. The walls pulsed with movement, and the ceiling, Sarah's flashlight clattered to the floor as she backed away. Above them, visible through the spreading cracks, dozens of serpentine heads swayed in the darkness. Their eyes glowed like green fire, and their fangs dripped with something that sizzled when it hit the floor. The mother had brought them exactly where she wanted them, and her children were hungry. Elena screamed as the ceiling finally gave way.
The ceiling collapsed in sections, raining debris and writhing shapes. Sarah dove under a metal table, dragging Elena with her. The younger scientist's scream cut off as they hit the floor, replaced by rapid, shallow breathing. "The storage room!" Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. "Move!" Through the swirling dust, Sarah saw him clearing a path with his machete, the blade catching fluorescent light as it sliced through a serpentine form that dropped toward Anna. The creature's blood was phosphorescent, splattering the walls with glowing droplets. Mike scrambled backward, his camera finally finding purpose as he fired off flash photos. The bursts of light revealed glimpses of horror, scaled bodies thick as tree trunks, fangs that curved like scimitars, and everywhere those burning emerald eyes. "Sarah, move!" Anna shouted, already pulling Elena toward the storage room door. But Sarah's muscles had locked up, Burma flooding back in full force, the ceiling collapsing, Lee's hand reaching for her, the sounds. Something cold and smooth brushed her ankle. She looked down to see a serpentine head the size of a motorcycle sliding under the table, jaws unhinging. Its scales were translucent, newborn pink in places, and through them she could see organs pulsing with that same phosphorescent blood. The creature lunged. Sarah rolled, feeling fangs graze her boot. Her elbow struck a fallen flashlight, sending it spinning. The beam caught the monster's face, and she saw her own reflection distorted in its compound eyes. Dozens of tiny Sarahs, all running, all afraid. "Here!" Marcus appeared through the dust, machete swinging down. The blade struck the creature's neck, sinking deep. It thrashed, sending tables flying, but Marcus held on. "Go! The rest of his words disappeared in a wet gurgle as another serpent dropped from above, coiling around his chest. Sarah heard ribs crack. The machete clattered to the floor, its blade glowing with luminescent blood. "Marcus!" She lunged for the weapon, but a massive coil slammed down between them. The floor cracked from the impact. Through the dust and confusion, she saw Marcus being lifted into the darkness, his crucifix falling from his neck. Mike's camera flashed again, briefly illuminating the full horror above them. The mother serpent had torn through the entire roof, her massive body forming a living ceiling. Dozens of her offspring, each the size of an anaconda, but wrong in ways that defied biology, writhed down from her coils like obscene umbilical cords. "The door!" Anna had reached the storage room, Elena supported against her shoulder. "Sarah, please!" Sarah's hand closed around the machete. The blade was warm, vibrating slightly, and the glowing blood seemed to move with purpose across its surface. She slashed at a striking head, catching it across its eyes. The creature recoiled, spraying luminescent gore. She ran then, ducking under coils and leaping fallen equipment. A fang caught her sleeve, tearing through fabric and skin. Her arm went numb almost instantly. Anna grabbed her just as she reached the door, pulling her through. Mike slammed it shut behind them, and Elena helped him drag a heavy filing cabinet across the entrance. The storage room was small, lit only by their remaining flashlights. Metal shelves lined the walls, holding dusty equipment and specimens in cloudy jars. A single high window offered a view of the storm-black sky. "Marcus," Elena sobbed, sliding down the wall. "Oh God, Marcus!" "Let me see your arm," Anna commanded, already pulling medical supplies from her pack. Her hands were steady now, professional instincts taking over. "The venom—" "It's not venom," Sarah said, watching the glowing blood on the mache blade. "Look." The substance was moving against gravity, forming patterns that looked like the same symbols they'd seen on the walls. As they watched, it seeped into the metal, making the entire blade glow with a pale green light. Mike raised his camera, focusing on the blade. "Those markings, they're like the ones from your Burma photos, the ones you could never translate." A massive impact shook the door, making the filing cabinet skid several inches. Through the gap beneath, they could see more of that glowing blood flowing across the floor. "We need to think," Sarah forced herself to focus past the pain and fear. "Marcus said these things hunt by sound and smell. We need to—" "Look," Elena whispered, pointing at the jars on the shelves. "The specimens." Sarah's flashlight beam revealed rows of preserved snakes collected over decades. But they weren't still. Each serpent was pressing against the glass of its jar, all facing the same direction, facing the wall opposite the door. Another impact. The filing cabinet slid further. "There's something behind that wall," Sarah said, moving closer to the specimens. "They're all reacting to it, like they're being called." Mike's camera flashed revealed a seam in the wall paneling. A hidden door? Why would a research station? A serpentine head smashed through the main door, fangs splintering wood. Elena screamed as glowing blood sprayed across her face. Where it touched, her skin began to ripple and change. "Get it off!" She clawed at her face. "Get it!" Her voice distorted, becoming something inhuman. Anna grabbed her medical kit, but Sarah caught her arm. "We can't help her! The wall! Help me with the wall!" They threw their weight against the paneling as Elena's screams turned to wet, slithering sounds. The hidden door gave way suddenly, revealing a dark passage that sloped down into the earth. Stale air rushed up, carrying the scent of age and secrets. Mike's camera caught one last image, Elena's face elongating, her eyes turning that same emerald urn as the storage room door finally burst apart. "Down!" Sarah pushed them into the passage as something massive struck where they had been standing. The machete's glow lit their way as they plunged into the darkness, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. But even as they ran, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were heading exactly where the mother serpent wanted them, down into the dark, towards something ancient that waited below. Elena's final human scream followed them into the depths.
The descent descended at a steep angle, its walls lined with the same strange symbols they'd seen above. Sarah's machete cast everything in a sickly green light, making the carvings seem to writhe and shift. "Stop," Anna gasped after what felt like hours of descent. "Please, I need to check your arm." They huddled in a wider section of the tunnel. Mike kept his camera pointed back the way they came, though the pursuing sounds had faded to distant echoes. His hand shook as he changed memory cards. "The bleeding stopped," Sarah said, examining the fang wound. Instead of blood, the gash now leaked that same phosphorescent fluid. "But I can feel it spreading, like ice in my veins." Anna's medical training warred visibly with her fear. "We should tourniquet it. If it's like normal venom—" "It's not." Sarah watched the glowing substance pulse in time with her heartbeat. "It's changing me, like Elena, just slower." Mike lowered his camera. "How long?" "Hours, maybe. It's hard to think clearly." Sarah gripped the machete tighter, its light steadying her. "We need to keep moving, find out what's down here." The tunnel opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. Their remaining flashlight beams revealed rows of stone columns carved with more symbols, these more elaborate than the ones above. The air felt thick, charged with something that made their skin tingle. "Look at this." Mike photographed a section of wall where the carvings formed a massive mural. "It's telling a story." Sarah forced her increasingly clouded mind to focus. The images showed primitive humans making offerings to a colossal serpent, but not just offerings. They were feeding it something, helping it grow. "There," Anna pointed to a series of smaller scenes. "They're becoming like it, changing." "An evolutionary leap," Sarah whispered as understanding dawned. "That's what Jim found in Burma, what he was trying to recreate. These creatures don't just hunt humans, they transform them, add them to their biomass." A deep thrumming filled the chamber, making the symbols glow with that same phosphorescent light. Sarah felt something pull at her consciousness, ancient alien thoughts seeping in through the venom in her veins. "We remember you." The voice wasn't sound, but pure concept, flooding her mind with images. The cave in Burma, other chambers like this one spread across the world, civilizations rising and falling as the serpents watched, waited, guided. "Sarah!" Anna's voice seemed distant. "Your eyes!" Sarah caught her reflection in Mike's camera lens. Her pupils had begun to elongate, taking on a familiar emerald glow. But worse than that was the understanding flooding her transformed brain. The true purpose of these chambers, these temples. "They're not hunting grounds," she said, her voice distorting. "They're nurseries. Each chamber, each temple, it's where they breed new queens." The ground trembled. Through the tunnel they'd entered by, they heard the mother serpent's offspring approaching, but something else was stirring in the darkness ahead, something far older. Mike's camera flash revealed it, a mass of coils larger than any they'd seen above, scales worn to mirror smoothness by the passage of millennia. As it moved, they saw gaps in its flesh where new serpents grew, waiting to be born. "The grandmother," Sarah whispered as more alien knowledge flooded her mind. "The first one, the one they've been feeding for thousands of years." Anna grabbed her arm. "Sarah, fight it! The venom! You can resist!" "I understand now." Sarah watched her fingers begin to elongate, scales shimmering beneath her skin. "Why they chose me, why they led us here. They need new blood, new queens, to spread, to grow." The grandmother's massive head emerged from the darkness, her eyes like dying stars. More of the offspring poured into the chamber from behind, cutting off retreat. In the machete's glow, Sarah saw Mike raise his camera one final time. "Join us," the voice in her mind whispered. "Complete the cycle." Sarah felt her humanity slipping away, replaced by something older, something hungry. The last thing she heard before the transformation took hold was Anna scream as the chamber erupted into chaos. The machete fell from her changing hand, its light revealing the horror of what she was becoming.
Anna's medical training had prepared her for trauma, for blood, for death, but nothing could have prepared her for watching Sarah Chen shed her humanity like an outgrown skin. "Run!" Mike shoved her toward a gap between the columns as Sarah's body began to contort. The photographer's flash captured the metamorphosis in strobing snapshots, bones cracking and reforming, skin splitting to reveal iridescent scales, a human face elongating into something ancient and terrible. Anna ran, her flashlight beam bouncing wildly off stone walls. Behind her, she heard Mike's camera clicking frantically, documenting until the end, even now. Then came a wet, tearing sound, and the camera clattered to the floor. "Mike!" She turned, raising her light. He stood frozen between two columns, Sarah's transformed body coiled around him. Her new form was smaller than the mother serpent above, but no less terrifying. Patches of human skin still clung to her scales, and one eye remained brown and human, though filled with alien intelligence. The other blazed emerald. "Sarah!" Mike choked out as coils tightened. "Please!" The creature that had been Sarah opened jaws lined with crystalline fangs, but instead of striking, it spoke, a sound like stones grinding together that somehow formed words. "Run, Anna, still time." The grandmother's massive form shifted in the darkness, and more of the offspring poured into the chamber. Anna backed away, her medical mind cataloging details even through her terror. The way the phosphorescent blood seemed to flow between the creatures like a shared circulatory system, the impossible flexibility of their bodies, the hive-mind coordination of their movements. Her back hit something cold and smooth, not a wall, a door, ancient metal, covered in those same glowing symbols. The grandmother's voice filled her mind. "Open it." "No," Anna whispered, though she felt her hand moving toward the symbols against her will. The pattern seemed to shift under her fingers, forming new configurations. The cycle must continue. The breeding grounds must be renewed. Through the chaos, Anna saw Mike's fallen camera. Its screen displayed the last photo taken, the mural showing humans transforming into serpents. But there was something she hadn't noticed before, a small scene showing figures escaping, using the symbols somehow. Her fingers traced a pattern before she could stop herself. The door began to move. Sarah's partly human voice cut through the chamber. "Anna, the machete! Use it!" The glowing blade lay where Sarah had dropped it. Anna dove for it just as the door swung open, revealing a vertical shaft that dropped into unimaginable depths. Wind howled up from below, carrying scents of other places, other times. The grandmother's coils shifted, and Anna saw what lay within the gaps in her flesh. Not just new serpents growing, but pieces of ancient machinery, metal fused with scale and bone. This wasn't just a creature, it was a living gateway, a biological key to something far worse. "Join us," the voice insisted. "Become a queen. Birth new worlds." Anna gripped the machete, its light pulsing in time with her heart. The phosphorescent blood seemed to whisper to her, showing her how to use it, how to become something more than human. "Sarah," Anna called out, "I'm sorry." She plunged the blade into the nearest symbol on the wall. The chamber erupted with blinding light as the patterns overloaded, connected, changed. The grandmother's psychic scream hit her like a physical blow. Mike's body fell from Sarah's coils as she thrashed, caught in the cascade of failing symbols. Anna ran to him, knowing before she checked that he was gone. The camera lay beside him, its final images documenting humanity's brush with an impossible truth. The chamber began to collapse as the symbols burned out. Ancient stone groaned as centuries of carefully maintained stasis began to fail. The offspring writhed in confusion as their connection to the grandmother was severed. Anna grabbed Mike's camera and ran for the shaft. Behind her, she heard Sarah's voice, still partly human, partly serpent, call out one last time, "Thank you." Then the ceiling came down, and Anna jumped into the howling darkness of the shaft, the machete's light guiding her fall towards whatever lay below. The last thing she saw above was Sarah's transformed body shielding her from the collapse, giving her this one chance to escape, to warn others, to stop the cycle. The darkness swallowed her whole as the breeding chamber collapsed behind her, taking its ancient secrets with it. But somewhere in the Amazon night above, the mother serpent still hunted, and her remaining children were growing stronger.
Anna fell through darkness that felt alive. The shaft's walls blurred past, glowing symbols flickering like dying stars. The machete's light showed glimpses of other openings, doorways to different times, different places. Through one, she saw the caves of Burma. Through another, ancient temples rising from jungle mist. Her medical training kicked in even through the terror. Terminal velocity for a human body is approximately 122 miles per hour. At this speed, impact would... The thought cut off as something caught her, not roughly, but like a hand plucking a falling leaf. She hung suspended in the void, wrapped in coils that felt both organic and mechanical. The grandmother's severed flesh, she realized. Parts of the ancient creatures still lived in these walls, these spaces between spaces, and they were studying her. "Let me go," she whispered, though she knew it was futile. The machete's glow revealed more of those hybrid structures around her, living metal, thinking stone, technology that had evolved alongside the serpents for millennia. "You broke the cycle," a voice whispered in her mind. Not the grandmother's overwhelming presence, but something smaller, something that had once been human. "But you can't stop what's already begun." The coils shifted, turning her to face a section of wall. In its reflective surface, she saw herself and the changes that had already started. Phosphorescent blood seeped from her pores, and her eyes had taken on the faintest emerald tinge. "No!" She tried to move, but her body felt distant, theoretical. I won't become." "You already are. We all are, have always been." Images flooded her mind, the first serpents arriving on Earth eons ago, seeding themselves into the planet's biosphere, the slow cultivation of humanity, guided evolution over millions of years, and now the final stage, the transformation of selected humans into new queens, ready to spread to other worlds. Anna felt her bones beginning to shift, her consciousness expanding. The machete's light pulsed faster, matching her accelerating heartbeat. Through the changes, her medical mind continued cataloging symptoms with clinical detachment. Skeletal restructuring beginning, circulatory system adapting to accept phosphorescent compound, neural pathways reorganizing to accommodate hind-mind connection. Time to complete transformation approximately... A sound cut through her fading humanity, a familiar sound. Sarah's voice, still calling from above, still fighting. Anna forced her changing fingers to grip the machete tighter. The blade's right seemed to respond, burning brighter. She remembered the symbols, the patterns that had caused the chamber's collapse. "You cannot fight what you are becoming," the voice insisted, "what you were always meant to be. Watch me!" She swung the machete in an arc, its glowing blade cutting through the hybrid flesh that held her, the shaft fueled with screaming, not just from the wounded structures, but from countless partially transformed voices within the walls. Anna fell again,
but this time with purpose. The machete's light showed her what she needed to see, a pattern of symbols that repeated every few meters, a code, a key. Her fingers, already half transformed into claws, traced the patterns as she fell. Each correct sequence opened another doorway, another chance at escape. But she could feel the changes accelerating, her humanity slipping away with each passing second. Through one portal, she glimpsed the research station above. The mother serpent still coiled through the ruins, but something was wrong. The offspring were turning on each other, their hind-mind connection corrupted by the grandmother's death. Sarah's transformed body fought among them, still protecting the shaft's entrance. "Last chance," the voice warned, as Anna's spine began to elongate. "Accept the change. Become a queen. Rule worlds." Anna saw the final doorway below, a pattern she recognized from Mike's last photo. Beyond it, she could smell rain, real rain, not the black ichor from above. The Amazon night waited, offering one last hope of escape. But the transformation was nearly complete. In moments, she would be too changed to pass through, too far from human to return. Anna gathered her remaining humanity, held the image of Sarah's sacrifice in her mind, and made her choice. The machete's light flared one final time as she fell toward the doorway, racing against the serpent's kiss spreading through her veins. Above, in the ruins of the research station, the mother serpent raised her head to the storm-black sky and screamed. The Amazon rainforest bled morning light like venom from a wound. Anna lay in the mud, her body caught between forms, watching the sun rise through eyes that couldn't decide if they were human or serpentine. The machete's glow had faded to a dull pulse beside her. Like her, it seemed caught between states of being, metal and magic, technology and organic matter. Her partially transformed hand reached for it, scales glinting where human skin had split. "Not yet," she forced the words through changing vocal cords. The phosphorescent blood in her veins burned like starfire, urging her to complete the transformation. But Sarah's final act of sacrifice anchored her to her humanity, giving her something to fight for. A sound like thunder rolled through the canopy, but not from above. The mother serpent was hunting, her remaining offspring scattered and feral without the grandmother's control. Anna could feel their confusion through the hive-mind link that grew stronger with each passing moment. Her medical training continued its relentless documentation of her condition. Transformation paused at approximately 47% completion. Core temperature 105.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Cardiac rhythm irregular. Multiple bone structures in flux. Time remaining before point of no return, unknown. She forced herself to stand, using the machete as a crutch. Its light strengthened slightly at her touch, responding to the hybrid nature of her changing flesh. Through her enhanced senses, she could smell the research station less than a kilometer away, and beyond that, the breeding chamber's collapse had opened something, a crack in the world that leaked ancient power into the jungle. Even now, she could feel it calling to the serpentine part of her, promising completion, transcendence, godhood. But it offered something else too, vulnerability. Anna's transformed eyes caught movement in the undergrowth, one of the offspring, smaller than the others, its scales still translucent. Through their partial connection, she felt its confusion, its fear. Without the grandmother's guidance, these creatures were just that, creatures with power they couldn't fully control. The machete whispered to her, its light pulsing with possibility. The symbols carved in the blade held one last secret, shown to her by Sarah's final message through their shared consciousness. The cycle can be broken, but only from within. Anna began walking, each step a battle between human will and serpentine instinct. The offspring followed her, drawn to the hybrid nature of her changing form. Through their connection, she called to others, not with the grandmother's imperious demand for obedience, but with something more powerful: choice. The research station appeared through the trees, its ruins crawling with transformed flesh. The mother serpent's massive form coiled through the wreckage, her emerald eyes fixing on Anna with ancient hatred.
She recognized what Anna had become, a queen who rejected her crown, a key that refused to turn. You cannot stop what was set in motion before your kind first crawled from the oceans. The mother's voice filled Anna's mind. We made you. We own you. No, Anna raised the machete, its light blazing as bright as the rising sun. We cultivated you. You guided us, but you forgot something important about human nature. The mother serpent reared up, her offspring circling in confusion as Anna's presence disrupted their connection. Through the hive mind, Anna felt Sarah's consciousness stir, fighting to reassert her humanity, even in her transformed state. What did we forget? The mother demanded. We evolve on our own terms. Anna plunged the machete into the earth. The blade's light exploded outward, connecting with the symbols still burning in the chamber far below. The crack in the world widened, not to let more power out, but to draw it back in. The mother serpent screamed as the energy that had sustained her kind for millennia began to drain away. Her offspring thrashed in confusion, their bodies beginning to dissolve as the ancient magic that held their impossible forms together unraveled. Anna felt the changes in her own body reverse, the phosphorescent blood burning away in the morning light. Through the fading hive mind, she glimpsed Sarah's consciousness one last time, grateful, proud, free. The mother serpent's massive form collapsed, scales sublimating into mist as the sun rose. The crack in the world sealed itself, taking with it all trace of the grandmother's ancient breeding program. Except Anna picked up the machete, now just dull metal with no trace of its former power. But the knowledge remained, carried in the human DNA the serpents had spent so long trying to perfect. The potential for transformation, for evolution, for change, but on humanity's terms, not theirs. Anna began walking east toward civilization, the morning sun warm on her human skin. Behind her, the Amazon rainforest slowly returned to its natural rhythm, ancient secrets once again buried in darkness. But somewhere in that darkness, other doorways waited, other chambers lay hidden, and humanity's next evolution was just beginning. The end.